Some machines define an era, a time when drastic situations require an answer born out of necessity.
If you look at the Second World War, the four things that stand out are the Jeep Spitfire, Sherman Tank, perhaps a Lancaster. The Sherman Tank is the main thing. What started me out in this hobby was a Jeep 1944, and then a few months ago a GMC 352 r3aa. I bought half track in 1999. Just always wanted a Sherman. I always liked them from when I was a kid, and this one came along, and I've been looking at Shermans for quite a while. Just love the sound of them, just looking at them.
The Sherman Tank was the Allies' mass-produced answer to the panzers of the Third Reich. It was often outgunned, certainly underprotected, and hardly a speed machine. But it was there, reliable, and in great numbers. Without it and its many variants, the Allies would have lost the war in Europe and the Pacific. This kind of acclaim, attached to a workaday warhorse, and the familiarity of it with ordinary soldiers, is part of what attracted Jim to the Sherman Tank. And why, after months of negotiation, he managed to purchase one that had been used on an army firing range.
And this one came along. It was, they say it was rough. I mean, people turned their noses up at it because it was such a wreck. But I could see how it was going to be when it's finished.
The first real step is to get it off the trailer. This Sherman M4A4 is 25 tons of rusted steel, made in the USA in 1942, and it hasn't moved for 2 decades after being used in World War II. Now it's been slowly dragged into the yard by the winch of Jim's GMC truck from the same era. To say it was a mess is an understatement. The next major step is to remove the turret and expose the fighting compartment so that both areas can be worked on. Weighing in at over 4 tons, the turret was a bit of a strain for a crane. A sobering thought is that frequently when Shermans were hit by enemy shells, the resultant explosion would blow the turret clean into the air. What happened to the occupants does not bear thinking about. With the turret removed, Jim and his mate Martin assessed the work to be done.
Small space in the back of there, and you had all the shells around the basket, and I've got how many thousand rounds of like 30 caliber machine gun rounds.
The tank engine is a little beyond repair. The 5-bank Chrysler power plant has been blasted to pieces, beyond even Martin's hopes and technical skills.
Adjusters for the valve clearance, and there's the valve springs, and there's the valves.
Various sets of running gear, tracks, and even the 75mm gun barrel were also part of the deal.
Even though it might be a pile of junk to some people. Determination, to have a vision of something finished. That's what kept me going. Some nights I used to sit and look at the tank, and it was people were saying it was a skip or just a wreck, which it was, but I could see it finished. I could see the end product. I didn't actually tot up the hours I spent on it. We bought it in 1999, and until 2004 all we did was stripped it out and collected the bits I needed for it. But from the February 2004 until June, that's when it was restored basically. Yeah, I would work till 3 in the morning some nights, and then back again here at sort of 9 o'clock in the morning, having about 4 or 5 hours sleep a day. It was hard graft.
Here, resting on 4 tree trunks, is Jim's tank. He's worked hard on it, he's got a long way, but he's still got a long way to go. Isn't that right, Jim? All the years of real hard work, including finding and installing other major elements such as tracks, a replacement 15-litre radial engine, as well as renovating most of the interior, would have got most people down.
You've got them on your thumbs, haven't you? Yes. Absolutely awesome to go from a skip to actually driving it for the first time, and the power and everything, the engine, and just, it's awesome, absolutely over the moon.
But eventually, the huge engine coughed into life, and the long hard hours started to pay off. Everything worked and was looking good. Things finally felt worthwhile. When you've got something like this, the pride in achievement is enormous. So much so, it just has to be shown to people. But it's not exactly easy. The tank's traps rip up city streets. It travels at a maximum of 25 miles per hour and uses at least 2 gallons of fuel per mile in that massive radial engine. With a restrictive view, great weight and slow response, it's also pretty dangerous for anyone to be too close, even cameramen. But Jim is determined to show his tank to the public. One of the first historic shows coming up is the Bristol Docks 1940s weekend, recreating an era when the docks were used for military traffic during the build-up to D-Day. To do the event, and his new big toy justice, Jim enlisted the help of an old mate with his own big boy's toy, a 1944 Diamond T prime mover with a dedicated tank transporter trailer. This monster will pull just about anything. It was used by the British and American armies during the war, and was still in use by the British for many years afterwards. It manages 3 to 5 miles per gallon, weighs 12 tons unladen, and has a top speed of around 25 miles per hour. Helping its owner Jason is co-driver Jeff, who used to do this sort of thing with the army back in the 1950s.
We got stuck, we had to winch the trailer up, 500 foot, and then another 500 foot. Power shit everywhere.
The trailer carries the weight of the tank evenly across its own axles and wheels. So this means that the back end of the truck has to be weighted down. Originally this was done by hand lifting scores of 56-pound weights into the rear deck. 11 tons of ballast in total. But Jim had a better idea. Use the old tank engine. With much care and a few stretched nerves, the old multi-bank engine from the Sherman, basically 5 Chrysler engines bolted together, is lowered into place. And the big Diamond C hardly seems to notice it was there. With more grunts and groans from the crane and crew, a worn-out track weighing 1.5 tons is also lowered into the ballast bin. When all is hitched up and ready to proceed, the lads bring the truck and trailer round to the farm where Jim keeps his tank. Now comes the tricky part, getting the tank loaded onto the trailer and transported to the show.
Got them on your thumbs, haven't you? Yeah.